They called it the future of scalable infrastructure, a new model for live patching microservices without a single second of downtime, the kind of system investors salivate over. And I was the one who built it. My name is Eric Vaughn. I'm 39 years old, and I was the lead systems engineer at one of the fastest-growing SaaS firms in the country. For almost 5 years, I led a quiet revolution inside that company's backend. One they didn't even fully understand until I handed them something that changed the way they saw deployment architecture. I didn't have a flashy title, no VP badge. Just a worn-out hoodie, a mountain of notebooks, and a machine in my head I couldn't stop building. Every late night, every piece of broken code I refactored, every whiteboard sketch the PMs dismissed as too complex. It all led to one prototype. We called it Helix. Helix wasn't just a deployment tool. It was a dynamic, self-correcting framework that adapted to system load, scheduled downtime around user activity, and could reverse patch without killing the stack. It didn't just prevent outages, it predicted them. When I demoed it internally, they didn't believe it worked. So I unplugged a critical server mid-simulation. No drop, no lag. Just seamless fallback and a silent alert that rerouted traffic in real time. The CTO blinked. We need to patent this. I didn't argue. I sent him everything. Diagrams, source maps, commit logs, research notes. My Git repo had timestamps going back 18 months. We looped in legal. They said I'd be listed as inventor. I believed them. Why wouldn't I? Weeks passed. The buzz grew. Internal decks started referencing Helix as a company breakthrough. They began prepping for demos at conferences, investor previews, private VC dinners. My name started appearing less. Not erased, just minimized. At first I told myself I was being paranoid. I was still in the Slack threads, still getting tagged in architecture discussions. But then I saw a PowerPoint slide during an all-hands call. The title read, Helix, Innovation by CEO's Name and the Product Evolution Team. No mention of me. Not even as a footnote. I should have spoken up right then, but something held me back. Pride, maybe. Or disbelief. After all I'd done, the weekends lost, the bugs crushed, the simulations run, surely someone would correct it. Right? I let it go. Just for a few more days. That's when Clara, our paralegal in legal, messaged me privately. Hey Eric, weird question. Did you review the provisional patent for Helix, the one they're filing this week? I froze. Number. Was I supposed to? She replied a minute later. I figured you had, but your name's not on it. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I logged into the shared patent folder. There it was, a polished PDF stamped with the company name. Co-inventors listed. The CTO, the CEO. One mid-level developer from the product team. Not me. Not even in the acknowledgements. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I checked the commit history. Every functional algorithm, every early build, the test harness. It was all under my name. Dates, timestamps, internal logs. But they hadn't just left me out by accident. They had deliberately filed the patent without me. And it wasn't just Helix. They were using my work to pitch investors. I found pitch decks from our Series C funding push, leaked to me by a friend in sales. Slide 3. Autonomous deployment stack. Patent pending. I knew every line of code behind it. I wrote it. And now, I was just a ghost behind the glass. I didn't confront anyone right away. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted to see how far they were willing to go. I quietly copied everything. My code commits, Slack messages, design documents, email threads, even the hand-drawn architecture sketch I'd uploaded during a late-night push. Then I dug into the versioning system. The earliest comment from the new co-inventors came months after I'd built the foundational engine. Most of their comments were front-end wrappers and UI beautification. Not nothing, but not the core. Not what made Helix Helix. Still, the patent filing claimed the system was conceived by the product team and refined through leadership insight. They'd twisted every part of the narrative. My name? Rewritten out of the origin story like I'd never existed. I looked through the internal wiki, the meeting notes, the slide decks. My contributions had been scrubbed in silence, carefully, deliberately, over time. The worst part? I knew exactly who was doing it. Not some villain in a dark corner. Not a cartoonish executive. Just people I used to sit next to every day. People who smiled when I handed them access. People I stayed late to help. Now they were erasing me for credit, for equity, for legacy. The next morning I sent a polite message to the CTO. Hey, just noticed the provisional patent filing. Looks like my name was left off. I'm assuming this was a legal oversight. Happy to chat. No reply. 4 hours later, I got a calendar invite from legal. Patent clarification meeting. Internal. In that meeting, I was met with 3 people. The general counsel, the CTO, and a rep from product. Their tone was friendly but rehearsed. Eric, the lawyer began, we appreciate everything you've done on Helix. You were instrumental in getting it built. This isn't about minimizing that. It's just about how we frame ownership for scalability. Scalability? Ownership? I asked one question. Why am I not on the filing? The CTO answered flatly. We had to simplify the attribution. It's better for the company narrative to present this as a product group initiative. Legally, you're a full-time employee, so the rights belong to the company regardless. He said it like it was obvious, like I was overreacting. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I nodded, thanked them for the clarification, and left the room. But in my head, I wasn't leaving quietly. I was writing a new plan. That night, I dug into something they'd forgotten, or maybe just didn't know existed. Helix was smart, yes, but it wasn't magic. It was built on layers of scripting, protocols, and environment variables, many of which I hard-coded myself in the dev instance. And while they had access to the compiled production package, they didn't know I had built an admin panel, a clean, simple interface that let me monitor system status, override patches, and, if needed, lock down key functions. Originally, it was for emergency use, testing, rollbacks during beta. Now it was leverage. I checked the panel. It was still connected, still functional, still listening. They could erase my name from slides, but they couldn't erase my code. From that moment on, I operated in silence. I attended meetings, nodded politely when people demoed new features I'd built months ago, and watched them dig their own hole. Meanwhile, I made one final update to the Helix control module. Just a single line of code. Disable if owner not verified. True. The next scheduled live demo. Investor Day. Main stage. Hundreds of eyes, cameras, live stream. And the person running the system? The CEO? He had no idea what was coming, but I did. And for the first time in months, I smiled. The conference center looked like something out of a tech startup's fever dream. Bright LED backdrops, massive displays cycling through buzzwords like AI-enabled infrastructure and zero downtime deployment, and polished executives rehearsing their lines one last time. I wasn't listed as a speaker, wasn't invited to the after-party, and certainly wasn't mentioned in the program guide, but I was there, quietly, watching. Investor Day had become the company's crown jewel. It was where strategy met spectacle. VCs, tech journalists, potential partners, all packed into a room to watch executives unveil innovations that were often more slideware than software. But not this time. This time, they were preparing to showcase Helix. And unlike the other presentations, Helix actually worked, because I built it. The CEO was scheduled to close the event with a live demo. 30 minutes of staged confidence, where he'd walk through real-time deployment updates using the Helix system. They'd set up a fake production environment to simulate high-volume patching while maintaining uptime. The only problem? The backend wasn't truly autonomous. It still relied on the fail-safe layers I'd written, and the system didn't know who he was. The day before the event, I logged in remotely using my private access key. I didn't tamper with the software. I didn't plant any bugs or malicious code. That would have been childish. Instead, I simply reactivated the owner verification layer, the one that checked admin credentials against the original developer log. If the system couldn't match the live operator with the original signature key, it wouldn't initiate the deployment sequence. It would lock the command queue, not crash, just stall. And there would be no error message, no clear explanation, just a frozen screen during the most important pitch of the year. I tested it one last time, logged in, executed a simulated push. The panel responded instantly. Then I logged out and ran the same command from a new sandbox account labeled CEO Demo User. It hung for 15 seconds, then timed out. Perfect. That evening, I walked the perimeter of the conference hall. My name tag said Eric Vaughn, guest of partner. No one looked twice. I found a seat near the back of the room, quiet, anonymous, with a perfect line of sight to the stage. The Helix segment was slotted last. Everyone buzzed about it in the hallways. I overheard one investor say, "If this thing really works, we're increasing our offer." Another added, "They're calling it deployment without disruption. Total game changer." I watched the CEO rehearse from afar. He looked relaxed, confident, the kind of confidence that comes from thinking the hard part is over. He clicked through his presentation like a showman, walked in perfect rhythm with the animations. The last slide before the demo read, "Now, let's show you what Helix can really do." I pulled out my phone, opened the control panel, watched, waited. The lights dimmed. The crowd hushed. The CEO stepped forward, mic clipped, smiling like a man about to receive applause before even beginning. He opened his browser, logged into the console, and clicked Run. Nothing happened. The screen blinked. The console refreshed. Then nothing. He clicked again. Still nothing. People shifted in their seats. A few murmurs. He smiled, played it off. Just waiting for the system to stabilize. Still nothing. And then, with the confidence of someone who had earned it, I clicked Inject Message from my side. The conference screen went dark. Then a single line of text appeared in white bold font. Helix created by Eric Vaughn. Patent contributions withheld. Verification failed. Gasps. Cameras. Silence. The CEO froze. And I stood up and walked out the back, not waiting for the fallout. I didn't need to stick around to hear the reaction. I could already imagine it. Board members squirming in their seats, marketing leads whispering frantically, some junior associate checking the error logs on the fly while pretending to remain calm. But it didn't matter. The room had seen it. The investors had seen it. That message, my message, hung on the screen longer than any applause ever could. Outside the building, I stood just far enough to see the conference lights through the glass wall. I watched people checking their phones, whispering to each other as the live stream suddenly cut out. The event moderator scrambled to pivot, throwing it to a networking break, with background music and muted screens. Meanwhile, my phone lit up. A text from someone still inside. "Holy hell, did you do that?" I didn't reply. A second message, this time from someone in engineering. "He's freaking out, like, lost all color in his face freaking out." I smiled, not out of malice, out of relief. Because for the first time since they erased my name, they had to say it again. Out loud. In front of everyone. And not because I demanded it. Because the system they depended on refused to function without its creator. Later that evening, I reviewed the event's recorded stream. It had already been pulled from the official website, but nothing disappears completely. Several attendees had clipped the moment from their own feeds. Some posted it to social media. Within hours, screenshots of the error message went viral on tech blogs and niche forums. "Lead engineer snubs CEO at product launch," one headline read. "Sabotage or security flaw?" asked another. A few writers dug deeper, finding the leaked patent filing and noting the missing contributor. But what changed the conversation wasn't the message itself. It was the technical discussion that followed. Engineers and developers online quickly realized that the system hadn't crashed. It hadn't thrown an error. It had executed something. Precisely. Intentionally. It hadn't failed. It had verified. And that was the real statement. The next day I received an email from legal. Polite, measured. They invited me to meet with the board to clarify the situation and ensure mutual understanding. I responded with a PDF inside it. My commit logs, my original design sketches, internal chat screenshots, email threads about the architecture, and a time-stamped copy of the admin panel code. No anger, no rant, just data. That same day, the CEO released a public statement. He didn't name me, just referenced a technical issue during our product demo and an internal attribution misunderstanding that is being reviewed. But it was too late. The truth had found daylight. And even if the general public moved on in a few days, the investors didn't. Neither did the engineers. I had built something they still wanted to use, but now they couldn't touch it without me. I spent the next few weeks weighing offers. Several rival firms reached out quietly. Some offered to rebuild Helix from scratch. Others just wanted consulting. A few even dangled titles, stock options, the works. But I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for clarity. Eventually, I spoke to one of the company's board members directly. He didn't mince words. We want to fix this. Cleanly. I made my conditions clear. First, the patent gets amended. My name at the top. Second, full attribution in all internal and external documents. Third, no NDA. I wasn't going to hide the truth just to make someone else feel comfortable. They agreed. The only thing I asked beyond that? Let the system speak for itself. The Monday after the demo, the office felt different. Emails came slower, Slack threads turned cautious. Even the usual water cooler banter died down. Nobody said my name in public channels, but I could see the ripple everywhere. Engineering leads suddenly pulled old code branches to re-review architecture. Legal teams double-checked past filing dates. And someone from HR quietly tried to verify if I was still officially on contract. I wasn't. My access had technically expired a month ago, but no one had bothered to revoke it. I had left without a scene, and they assumed I'd moved on. That assumption became their biggest mistake. Because while they talked about innovation, I had built something that still held the keys. The CEO stayed quiet, which was smart. Anything he said publicly would have invited more questions. The press speculation cooled down within a week, but the internal damage was harder to repair. A few mid-level execs started distancing themselves. One of them even emailed me directly. I didn't know they filed without you. That wasn't right. I didn't reply. I didn't need an apology. I needed truth with receipts, and now I had them. Behind the scenes, the company scrambled to recover. Their investor pitch was suddenly under scrutiny. Analysts were asking who actually owned the IP. And future clients were hesitant to trust a system that required a single unknown gatekeeper to function. The irony? The very thing that made Helix so seamless, the silent trust layer, had become the risk no one wanted to explain on a call. Eventually, a revised patent filing went public. My name was at the top. Below it, in smaller font, were the CTO and two others, no sign of the CEO. A quiet correction, but a meaningful one. From that moment on, the technical world started to see Helix for what it really was. Not just a product, but the story of a builder reclaiming authorship. I didn't go back. Not physically, anyway. But I heard through a friend in security that the company had implemented new policies on attribution and code sign-off. A few engineers left shortly after. Others stayed and started documenting better. I wasn't trying to spark a rebellion. I just wanted things done right. One afternoon, I got a call from the CTO. He asked for 10 minutes. We ended up talking for nearly 45 minutes. He admitted it. They'd cut me out for narrative reasons. The investors needed to hear a cleaner story, he said. It wasn't personal. But it was personal to me. Because they didn't just steal credit. They rewrote history. They put my ideas in someone else's voice, used my code like a prop, and hoped I'd stay quiet because of a badge and a paycheck. But now that narrative had collapsed, and they wanted to rebuild it with me involved again. I declined the offer, not out of spite, but out of principle. Some bridges don't need to be burned. Some just need to stay crossed once and left behind. Instead, I told him something simple. Next time you build a product like Helix, make sure you know who actually designed it. Because people forget logins. Systems don't. From there, things moved quickly. The board issued a quiet internal directive. No more patent filings without dual sign-off. The legal department overhauled its contributor recognition policy. And the admin panel I built? They shut it down. Replaced it with a new control system. One without my signature. That was fine. My code had done its job. As for me, I took a few months off. Then launched a consultancy under my own name. Within the first quarter, I had 3 major clients, all asking the same thing. Can you help us build something like Helix, but the right way this time? And I did. I built cleaner, sharper, transparent, and every line of code bore my name. Because once you've had your work stolen, your voice silenced, and your identity erased, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's reputation, the kind no one can redact. I started getting messages from younger engineers, people I'd never met, thanking me for standing up. One wrote, "I've been watching people take credit for quiet devs my whole career. What you did gave me courage. Another asked for mentorship, not advice on tech, but how to navigate the politics of building in silence. That hit harder than any headline. I never saw myself as a symbol. I was just trying to correct a wrong, but the ripple effect was real. People were paying attention now, to attribution, to quiet contributors, to whose name was in the metadata, not just on the stage. One VC, after reading my public write-up, told me, "You didn't sabotage them. You saved their reputation from becoming a deeper lie." That felt generous. But maybe there was truth in it, because Helix hadn't crashed. It hadn't been destroyed. It had been revealed, flaws and all. And in that moment of truth, the company had a chance to rebuild, whether they would or not. That wasn't my story to tell anymore. I had reclaimed my part, and that was enough. 6 months later, I got a notification from the USPTO. The updated patent filing had officially processed. I clicked through the document, scrolled past the abstract, and paused at the section labeled Inventor. There it was. My name. Not buried in fine print, not squeezed in as an afterthought. First line bold, clear. I sat back in my chair, letting the moment breathe. It wasn't about the patent anymore. It never truly was. It was about truth. About knowing that all those years of pushing code at midnight, of debugging systems alone when no one else understood the architecture, had left a mark someone couldn't erase. I saved a copy, then closed the tab. No social media post, no announcement. Some victories don't need a spotlight. They just need to exist. That same week, I submitted my resignation, again. This time not to a company, but to a world I no longer needed. No more office politics. No more asking for credit. I was done being the guy behind the curtain. I was ready to be the one who built the curtain, hung it up, and decided when it opened. And I was going to do it my way. I launched my own firm 3 weeks later. Just me at first. No co-founder, no VC money. Just the reputation I'd earned. And the systems I knew how to build. Word spread faster than I expected. Clients from companies I used to compete against reached out. Not just for products, but for process. They wanted clean pipelines, verifiable approvals, auditable contributions. In a post-Helix world, people had grown cautious, and I was exactly the kind of cautious they needed. One startup hired me to audit their codebase. Another asked for a custom deployment protocol with identity encryption built into every commit. A large fintech company brought me on to rewrite their contributor framework so no single name could be removed without triple-party sign-off. The irony? What started as a betrayal had evolved into a business model. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was designing resilience. One afternoon I got a call from Clara, the same paralegal who tipped me off months ago. She had left the company too. "I didn't want to be part of a place that deletes people," she said. She was working in IP compliance now, and she wanted to hire my firm to consult on a new tech incubator. They were launching a program focused on attribution ethics. "You're kind of the face of that now," she joked. I didn't say much, but I smiled. There was something strange about becoming the symbol for a cause you never asked for. I hadn't set out to become a voice for invisible engineers or ghostwriters of innovation, but the story had struck a nerve, and now it was doing what all good stories do, echoing beyond me. I started writing in the evenings, not just code, but thoughts. Essays on ownership, integrity, design transparency. I published one piece called The Line of Credit, about the invisible divide between contribution and recognition in modern tech culture. It got shared thousands of times. Universities asked me to speak. Developers sent me notes of gratitude. And slowly, the damage healed. Not just for me, for others too. Then came the strangest moment of closure. I got an invite to an event, a new product launch, different company, but on the list of speakers was someone I hadn't heard from in months. The CEO, the same one who stood on stage reading from my code. The invite had a personal note. "Would love to talk if you're attending, off the record." I didn't RSVP. But I did show up, quietly, again. This time I didn't need a back door. I didn't need a message injected into a screen. I stood at the back, arms crossed, and listened as he presented a new platform, one built without me, but still bearing traces of what we once worked on. And in the Q&A, someone asked a familiar question. What makes this platform different from Helix? There was a pause, and for once he didn't pivot. He said, "Helix taught us something about how not to build and who not to forget." No names, no drama, but it was there. A line drawn in the open, a step forward. After the event, I walked outside into the night air. I didn't feel victorious, just calm. Because, in the end, the story didn't belong to me anymore. It had passed hands, been shaped by reaction, by repetition, but the truth it held. My name was back where it belonged, and that was enough.